Good morning, good evening, and good day. You're listening to Dramabuds, an anime podcast. So hello everyone, welcome to today's episode of Dramabuds. I don't know if you can feel my energy right now, but I'm so happy today because I get to talk about my top drama of the year so far. That's right, Business Proposal is my number one drama of 2022 so far. And look, no one is as surprised as me, okay? I have never loved a rom-com and like a rom-com main couple as much as this show. I would say I love the main couple of Business Proposal as much as I love Jang Jae-ul and Ji Hae-soo from It's Okay, That's Love. That's a standard that has not been reached until now. So, quick background on Business Proposal. Directed by same director as Walk of Love and Suspicious Partner. I have not watched either of those, but just so you know. The writers wrote the Ugly Young series. A sitcom that's like 17 seasons long, and High Kick, so another sitcom, and it stars An Yeosop, who I've seen in Dr. Romantic 2, 30 but 17, and a bit in Lovers of the Red Sky, and Kim Sejong, who I've watched in The Uncanny Counter. So, what is it about? It's about Shin Hari, who pretends to be her friend in a blind date and finds out that her date is Kang Tae-moo, her company's CEO. So eventually, they enter a contract relationship where she pretends to be his girlfriend to appease his grandfather, but Shinhari has to hide from Tae-moo at work because, once again, her CEO. I already did a first impressions episode on the show where I just talked about my thoughts on the characters and relationships by around episode 6. So I recommend that you listen to that first impressions episode because I will be skipping some points from there. Like, everything I said back then still holds true, okay? Everything I said back then, it got even better from what I was already feeling back in those first impressions. So go listen to that. This episode is a full review on all the 12 episodes that came out. So let's move on to the plot and characters. First, we have Kang Tae-moo, played by An Yeosop. You know, typical young, rich, perfect CEO who can do it all and he hates wasting time. And, you know, with those kinds of characters, he starts out very cold, very business only, but we slowly see his like boyish side. You know, he's kind of a dork and not much of a rich, arrogant CEO. And there's an inner child in him that needs healing since he lost his parents at a young age in a car crash while it's raining. These are keywords you should be taking down because you know where all of these are leading up to. You know what it is. Childhood trauma. This is a tropey show. Get used to it. So, Tae-moo's grandfather became his sole caretaker after his parents died. Once again, in a car crash while it was raining. Just so you know. And his grandfather now wants him to get married and have kids. So he sets Tae-moo up on a bunch of blind dates. On the very first one, he set up with Jin Young-so, who he doesn't know is actually Shin Hari pretending to be Young-so. And, you know, she's interesting enough. At least she wasn't boring. He decides that he wants to marry her. And then very soon after, he finds out that Young-so and Hari were lying to him. And Hari at this point is now saying that she's Shin Gum-hee, since of course she can't reveal that she's Shin Hari because Tae-moo knows her by name. So he hires Gum-hee to pretend to be his girlfriend in front of his grandfather. And they build their story, they go on fake dates, and he starts seeing her vulnerable side. They kind of open up a little bit to each other, and they bond over food and work. Although, of course, he doesn't know that she's working for him. And then, it's not over, and then, within first 4 episodes, he finds out that she's actually Shin Hari, and he gives her chances to come clean about it to him. But of course, she chooses to hide and continue the lie. And so, he has a petty streak. He makes her life a little miserable and difficult at work. But after that, he realizes that what he felt during those moments on their dates, that was real. His feelings were real, and like he's able to feel so much for one person and to care so much for them. And so the moment that she came clean to him about her identity, even though, she was drunk, as soon as she did that, he, kind of forgave her and ended their contract relationship and set her free from the guilt that was eating her up. So good. And after that, like when he finally came to terms with his own feelings, he's like, well, I guess I'm going to confess to her and ask for her to marry me. This show moves so fast. I'm telling you, everything I described happened within the first 5 episodes. It's that fast. I love the show. But okay, let's move on to Shinhari, played by Kim Sejong. She is an average girl from a middle-class family working as a food researcher in GeoFoods. Well, she's a good employee, she's hardworking, loves her job, she's an incredibly loyal friend to Jin Young-so, we'll talk about her later. What else? She's had a crush on her friend, Chef Lee Min-woo, for 7 years since college. He's never seen her that way, and he's also in this on and off relationship with his girlfriend, Yura. And these two characters, we will not discuss them. They are the worst characters in this whole show, and no one likes them. Like, there's no redeeming factor to these two. They suck. So let's not give them any attention. I have to emphasize that Shinhari is a normal girl. Okay, she's totally totally normal. She's not stupid. She's not crazy. She's not overly quirky. She doesn't have like borderline obsessive interests, no crazy hobbies, nothing. Just a normal girl trying to be a good daughter, good employee, good friend. And because she's such a good friend, she gets dragged into this lie by Youngso. It's a thing they do, that she pretends to be Youngso on blind dates to try and scare those men off. So it's a thing that they do. She's such a great friend, really. And even when Taemu finds out the truth that she's not actually Jin Youngso, she decides to keep up the lie because it pays good money, and she's always been like held back by her debts and all the work that she had to do to get out of it. Shinari only becomes ridiculous and clumsy when she's pretending to be Gumhee or when she's hiding from Taemu at work, right? So aside from those moments, she's just plain as ever, just a really great girl. We all love her. So, as she and Taemu go on their fake dates, there are these moments of genuine connection and attraction. I have to emphasize this, okay? She has been attracted to Kang Taemu since episode 1, since the blind date. Like, the moment she saw him, she was like, he's hot. This sucks. Okay, I can't even appreciate how hot he is because I'm pretending to be Youngso and I have to scare him off, but he's hot. Like, we have to establish that she's always thought he's hot, okay? Anyway, back to, the emotional connection. Although she does sometimes feel like there's something there, Hari can never entertain the idea of getting into a relationship with Taemu because 1, she's pretending to be Shin Gum-hee and Shin Gum-hee is not real. 2, Taemu's her CEO. Like, whether she's Hari, whether she's Gum-hee, whether she's Jin Young-so, Kang Taemu will always still be her CEO in the real life. And 3, she's not the rich, smart, beautiful, perfect girl that someone like him, someone as perfect as him, should be with. So you know what her conflict is going to be when he confesses to her, okay? Next main character, although these are the second leads at this point, we have Cha Sung-hoon, played by Kim Min-gyu. He's Kang Taemu's executive assistant and also his childhood friend, since Taemu's grandfather practically adopted him from the orphanage that he grew up in. And so as a result, he's just incredibly loyal to the Kang family. Although he has decided to become more independent by moving out of their estate and into his own apartment, where eventually Jin Young-so moves into the unit beside his. So Jin Young-so, played by Solina, is Shinhari's best friend and the daughter of a chaebol. So she works in one of her family's companies. I think in an advertising agency. She's also an incredibly loyal friend to Harry, okay? The bestie behavior. These two are the bestest of friends. Really great relationship. Her father often neglected her as a child, so Harry's parents would often feed her and let her stay over. So she is also essentially their daughter. She made Harry go to that blind date and all those blind dates actually because Youngso wants to marry for love, not through blind dates or arranged marriages. After rebelling for a while, she moves out of her father's home. She's cut off from his card and everything, and she has to be independent and move into her own apartment. Her own apartment, which is coincidentally beside Cha Sung-hoon. She actually fell in love with him at first sight, but he acts cold to her due to, as I mentioned, his loyalty to Taemu, and she was involved in lying to him. So, of course, Sung-hoon has to side with Taemu. So, that's them. Okay, so as someone who is notoriously never been a huge fan of rom-coms, right? Honestly, most of them are corny. I find them full of filler characters and storylines. I just have a lot of prejudice against rom-coms. I'm open about that, okay? But what makes this show so different and so good? What is it that finally made a rom-com click with me this much? First of all, it's funny. The humor is just truly great. It's laugh out loud hilarious. Slapstick comedy in the best way. They have these ridiculous situations and they use CG and sound effects super, super well. Most importantly, though, you can see that the actors were having fun and they brought a lot of that energy on screen. They commit to their bits, okay? No matter how cringy their lines are or their actions are, they commit to what they have to do. And then the director, the crew, they enhance it with the editing, the effects, and then the scenes and the story. They all move so fast. So you're constantly entertained. You can never linger too long on something. And that's why it's just such an engaging watch. I mentioned the acting and Kim Sejong is the star of this show. It's her breakthrough role and I'm so happy for her because she was truly amazing here, okay? She breathed so much life into Shinhari. It's crazy. And aside from, being bubbly and funny when Hari has to be, Sejong also delivers her emotional moments and her vulnerability so well. In the times when you see her, being insecure about her longtime crush on her friend. In moments when, she's insecure about her feelings for Taemu and his feelings for her and how the world will see that relationship. And her just slowly coming to terms with her feelings and giving in to what she feels. The moments when she's, trying to empathize with Taemu when he's opening up to her. Instead of just pitying him and shutting it down because it's an uncomfortable conversation. All of those moments, Sejong delivered so well that you feel like Shinhari is a real person, no matter how ridiculous the situations she gets herself into are. Next, An Yosop. You know what? An Yosop can do no wrong for me. I take no criticisms on him, on his character, on his acting. I simply do not care, okay? I mentioned this in the first impressions episode that honestly, to address the criticisms, he doesn't portray the arrogant side of Kang Taemu that well. I have to mention it. The constant comparisons to Park Seo-joon in What's Wrong with Secretary Kim. Park Seo-joon delivered the arrogant, cocky side of that character well. Good for him. An Yosop didn't. Okay, cool. But his failure to be 100% arrogant, narcissistic, cocky made Kang Taemu more dorky and endearing and boyish in my eyes, which is exactly what Hari ended up loving about him the most. Honestly, it's not so much that he's arrogant as a front. He's not really pretending that he's good because he is good. It's just not the core of his personality, as it should be with most people. And once again, I don't really want to date an egomaniac. That's not very fun. I'd rather date someone who's kind of dorky and sweet. So yeah, even An Yosop's shortcomings as an actor made the character better. So what can he do wrong? He can do no wrong. I simply accept no criticisms. Thank you very much. The actors were great. Like the cast chemistry, not just the romantic chemistry. Them like bouncing off each other's energy and their jokes and ad-libs. Great. The romantic chemistry is great. I mentioned ad-libs. From even the gags to the romantic moments, the actors had so much input on what their characters would do. And the director was so receptive to it. Which I think is why the chemistry was so palpable in the show. Not just romantic, but also their comedic chemistry. So, something else that I loved about the show so much is their use of tropes. Okay, nowadays, like, so many shows try to subvert all the tropes and prove that they're different. But guys, rom-coms thrive off of familiarity and predictability, okay? Business Proposal clicked with so many people because it was a return to form, is that the right term? On the typical rich guy, poor girl, CEO romance, fake dating rom-coms of the olden days. And I think the director literally said something like, the ending is definite. Okay, we've all seen it before. We know what's going to happen here. But let's just focus on making the journey fun. And they did. They really succeeded in that. There were times when the show would subvert some tropes. Yeah. Like in episode 6, Harry was unintentionally ruining all of Temu's plans to woo her and confess to her. They could have had this beautiful dinner overlooking the city where he would confess to her with, violence and roses and other cheesy stuff. Instead, she, gave him a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation on why she should keep her job because she thought she was going to get fired. And then when they went to the beach, because they went on a trip. Instead of, him driving her by the seaside and with the wind blowing their hair and it's romantic and beautiful, she zooms down the highway, because we are on a schedule, sir. We should be going to all these restaurants by this time and that time instead of the romantic beach date that Kang Tae-moo wanted to have with her. But side note though, even when they're subverting tropes, they're also adding something more meaningful to it in the story aside from just subverting the tropes, because instead of all those cheesy cliche dates that Tae-moo thinks they should have, because that's probably what people will think is romantic, right? Instead, he tries to get to know her and find out what she likes. And it ends up actually being successful finally, and they get to once again share a moment of genuine connection through food. We love to see it. What else? What other tropes did they subvert? Not even subvert. They completely neutralized some possible conflicts by kicking out all the relatives. They established it in episode 1 that there are no chaebol relatives here in the company that could possibly take over or try to sabotage Tae-moo to gain control of the company. That plot line is not happening at all. Get it out of your mind, okay? Love to see it. But although they would subvert some tropes, most of the time they leaned into it. They're like, this is a rom-com. These are tropes. This is cliche. We all know it. You as the audience, you're not stupid. You know what's happening here. Let's not pretend that this is all new and fresh and still amazing, okay? Let's just have fun with it. They literally had this fake makjang drama in the background as this running joke that would point out all the cliche things that happened in the actual show. It was like a wink wink, nudge nudge to how cliche and ridiculous these events are. Or poking fun at the tropes that could happen in these CEO, chaebol, rich guy, poor girl shows. What I really love about this show and their use of tropes is that they committed to putting all of these together and delivering them still as creatively as they can. And I just love it. I appreciate it so much. And the pacing of the show is great because, once again, you can never linger too long on one plot point. They just balanced it so well. Okay, I have to have a dedicated segment, the main OTP, because Hate, they have my heart, okay? When I did my first impressions episode, they weren't a thing yet. But now that I've seen their full arc, I'm even more in love with this OTP. So, quick summary of thoughts from my first impressions episode. This works because I love the characters as individuals. Right? Shinhari, lovable, loyal, wonderful human being. And as I mentioned earlier, Kang Tae-moo is not a complete egomaniac, okay? It would be great to date someone like him. They both love food and they love work and they can connect with each other and be vulnerable with each other. If only he were not her CEO, they really could hit it off and make it work. So that was as of episode 6. After that, the major hurdle that they faced when Kang Tae-moo first confessed was Hari's insecurities. Right? She's not good enough for him. Others would have so much to say about it. But like Kang Tae-moo said, he would confess again and again until she said yes. And okay, let's have the discussion. Okay, others would call that like, oh, red flag. Here we go again. Toxic male leads. Men can't understand when a woman says no. I understand that. Those lines out of context would probably be problematic. But let's look at the intention behind it, okay? Because you can change the lines, okay? If the lines are such a big problem, change the lines. But the intention should remain the same. What's the intention? He's reassuring her that he's not looking at any of those things or listening to any of those people. So she shouldn't either. Like, he's asking her if she likes him back, and she's not giving a clear answer. She is giving answers based on other people's perceptions, but not from her own feelings from within her. And I mean, it's understandable that she has so many insecurities from being ignored for 7 years by her crush. Like, if this guy can't even pay attention to me, can't even notice me, how come this absolute perfect specimen of a human being would ever even care about me that way? And then, of course, her background as someone who's always been middle class, who's had to work her way out of debt. They're all valid. All of her insecurities are valid. But here is Kang Tae-woo being completely sincere with him, putting himself fully out there. And he is just reassuring her that his feelings are real. He's sure about her and asking her to be honest with him. Since that's what he's always wanted from her, right? That's why he went on that petty streak when she wouldn't confess that she's actually Shinhari. Because all he wants is for her to be honest with him. Regarding the, I'll keep confessing until you say yes. Guys, calling things out, that's important. But, after that, after calling things out, let's apply a little more critical analysis that involves, taking in context and trying to understand meaning behind things. Once again, you can change the lines, but the intention, this is the intention. And that should remain the same. So after that confession thing, and after Shinhari, kind of succumbs to her feelings for a little bit and then stops herself. And then, realizes her true feelings and confesses back to him. They did some secret office dating shenanigans. Always great. We love secret dating. Then we got to see their relationship, which they're just so full of love and understanding. Like, aside from the thrill of secret dating, because there is a thrill to that, once again, they are still having these moments of genuine connection. Like, there's more to learn about each other, and they're even more open and vulnerable with each other, which is just so lovely to watch. And then we approach the rain trauma. Dun dun dun. Quick recap. Parents died in a car accident while it was raining, and he had to witness that. It was coming. Everyone rolled their eyes the moment he showed like some discomfort with the rain. It's like, oh God, he has trauma involving the rain. We all rolled our eyes. Don't worry. But trust the process. The writer said, trust the process. We're gonna make it good. First time we actually saw the rain trauma was in episode 6, where he left her, on the side of the road while it was raining. And that was not his best moment, okay? He was driving, it was raining, obviously a lot of triggers there. But in that incident, that's when Hari kind of remembered that he expressed that discomfort with the rain before. And she got the idea that maybe he does have some issues, okay, since episode 6. And then finally, it comes back in full force in episode 10. But the writers really pulled off, like, addressing the trauma without making it super dramatic or saying that love will cure all wounds or whatever. Here's what happened. They went on a date and it started raining. And then Hari decided, maybe we should take the subway because it's nicer down there. And then they stayed in an underground flower market. And when they heard that the rain stopped, they went to the restaurant and she sat beside him to distract him from the rain because they could see it from the window during dinner. So these are just super small actions where she was just trying to be considerate in the things that she could do to help him. Like, she couldn't be his therapist. She couldn't approach the subject because he hasn't opened it up yet. From her standpoint, from what she could do, she will try her best to ease his discomfort as much as she could. The best part about this is that Temu noticed. He knew what she was doing all this time, but he didn't know how to thank her. He didn't know how to approach the subject without just fully unloading on her, of course, when he wasn't ready for it. So he just kissed her very sweetly, very innocently. And this kills me. But that was an ad-lib. Like, and you also thought like, in this situation, Temu would kiss Hari. And then said Jeong Creed. And then the director also brought it up. So there's like, yeah, let's make that happen. And then it just became one of the most iconic moments in the show because, they're so good. They're so cute together. And it totally worked. And then, so after that scene, finally told her that, yeah, I noticed what you're doing. And she apologized just in case her knowledge of his pain made him uncomfortable. And then right before he started opening up, even though he was obviously not ready for it, she just hugged him and then stopped him from it. Like, she doesn't need to know. She doesn't need the full story now if he's not ready for it. But she is here for him, right? It's just so warm and so loving, and they're such a good couple together. But of course, as a K-drama typically does, the last 2 episodes became the conflict/angst dump. And people in the office, found out about them dating and then started spreading rumors or just talking about Shinhari badly. Of course, dating the CEO, and then she won an award recently. So they're like, oh, what? Did she only win that because she was dating the CEO? Typical stuff like that. The things she, was worried about from the very beginning, right? And this would have been the perfect time to introduce one of the worst tropes ever. Truly, noble idiocy. Just break them up so that, it would end the rumors or they can keep their jobs, blah, blah. No, the writer said, we are putting so many tropes, so many things, but not noble idiocy. They will not break up for some stupid reason and then get back together at the last minute, okay? No. Remember, Temu said when he was trying to assure her that his feelings were real, when he said that I will keep confessing to you again and again until you say yes, he said that what you're worried about will never happen, right? They will never break up because, she's not the right girl for him or because of what other people will say. When he said that, he meant it. He did not let the gossip affect them. He was even willing to resign, right? If the board of directors had a problem with the situation, then fine. I'll resign. I'll take responsibility for it. It takes 2 to be in a relationship, and this is a real relationship. So I'll take responsibility for my side of it. My God, okay. And then, when Hari finally acknowledged her feelings and chased after him and said, from now on, I'm not going to care about what other people think and just think about the 2 of us. When she said that, she actually meant it. Why should others' opinions affect their relationship when they love each other this much and are so good for each other? At that point, I thought maybe Hari would be the one to break up with him because, of course, it's affecting her more than it's affecting him. But it didn't even seem like that was an option for the 2 of them. Like, she was willing to just shoulder all the burden at work, because he wasn't in the office when the news broke and the gossip started spreading. And she said, like, I won't show him. I won't tell him about this. Like, I can handle this myself. And she had a really great support system in her coworkers. So at the very least, she had that. And she had Yongso, who hid it from her family in case they found out. So Hari had other people to soften the blow for her and support her while it was difficult. But it never reached the point where they were seriously considering maybe we should break up to end the rumors and to spare ourselves from how difficult the situation is. I just love that. I really love how that would have been the most predictable turn of events. And yet, the show still did not go there. Because they knew this relationship is precious. We can throw things at them because all shows need to have a little conflict at some point. We can't all be fluffy happy times all the time. But not breaking up. They're way stronger than that. And we love to see it. I saw some people say that the show got boring after they confessed to each other and got into a relationship, but I think those people were only in it for the comedy, which is great, by the way. And I still think, like, even after they got together, there were some great comedic moments. Episode 9 is one of the funniest episodes for me. But personally, I did not find the show boring at all at any point because I was so invested in their relationship, like these characters and their relationship with each other. Because I know how rare it is for me to truly love an OTP as much as I loved Hari and Temu. What I love about them is that I am so sure that they like each other and are good for each other. Like, some K-drama couples fail to convince me that these characters feel something other than physical attraction to each other, or they're just in close proximity to each other. Someone moved there, someone started working there, they're always seeing each other. Sometimes I think it's like you're two attractive people and you're near each other, so probably you should just fall in love. Not with these two, okay? They have things in common. They enjoy spending time with each other. They know when to communicate and when they just need to, let it be and try to understand each other. I think in a rom-com, the main couple is the most important aspect. If I'm not sold on their story, why would I put up with all the fillers and the humor and everything else that is secondary to the romance, to the relationship that you're selling? And good for this show because, once again, super fast-paced, not a lot of filler, and just a wonderful, wonderful main couple. Now, of course, the show isn't perfect. I saw this tweet somewhere. Someone said it, that the show isn't perfect and it doesn't try to be. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that about the show. I'm not going to call out like the writing because, once again, it's cliche, it's tropey, it's a simple story, it doesn't have much depth. That's all it's trying to be, and I don't see why that's a problem. If you're delivering the intention, you're the winner here. That's all you need to do. What I do consider kind of bad though, despite all the good aspects of it, is the editing. Right? I mean, it's pretty good at some parts, but also really bad at others. It's not the CG, by the way. They use CG really well here. It's, I guess, continuity problems. Like, there are these sudden cuts and scene changes. Like, it gets awkward sometimes. And then they had a lot of deleted scenes. Because it's a 12-episode drama with only 1 hour each. Like, they're very strict with the 1 hour time limit. They mentioned that there were a lot of scenes that they had to cut. So I like how concise and snappy this show feels. But it's a shame because it would have been great to see more of their moments together, or to see more realistic transitions from one situation or one scene to the other. Because sometimes you're just surprised that, oh, we're here now. Oh, we're doing this. And I think a scene would have added a little more context to that. It's not filler, just, a decent transition from one point to the other. But they were pressed for time. They chose what was most important to the story that they were telling. Okay, fine. Now, in terms of like individual scene editing, I have to talk about the kisses and the bed scene. First of all, personally, I loved all of these scenes. Okay, I loved all of Hari and Temu's kisses and the bed scene. I loved them all, and I can explain it away by thinking of Shinhari and Kang Temu's, relatively inexperienced in romance. But really, the awkwardness, there is some awkwardness to it. That only happened because the editing is so bad at times. And they don't use like shots that would have made them seem less awkward. Like in the first kiss they had. I loved it personally because it was very emotionally charged. I love those kinds of scenes. But when I saw the making video, the behind the scenes video, that was so much better than what was actually in the show. Okay, it was way more passionate because it was a close-up or a closer shot. But in the actual episode, they chose these different wide shots instead of the close-up. Maybe here's me justifying once again the choices of the director and the crew. Maybe it's meant to soften that first kiss because it's not supposed to be that sensual, maybe. It's passionate, it's emotional, but there should be a little awkwardness to it because it's a sudden first kiss. And then we have the bed scene, which, once again, personally, I loved it. I thought it was great. I enjoyed it. No matter how sudden, it was so sudden. One moment we were at Namsan Tower, and then the next moment we were in a hotel room. Like, whoa, guys, why are we here? But still, I enjoyed it. But it was admittedly a little awkward, in some parts of the whole sequence. One, because most of this was ad-lib. Okay, most of this was like the director just let them go. That's why there were a lot of long takes, because maybe to minimize the retakes of the whole sequence. And then, two, another factor that maybe made this more awkward than it should be, the set that they used, or the hotel room that they rented for this, was huge. They had to do so much traveling from like the wall to the table to the bed. There was so much traveling and carrying involved. And so I feel like if it were a smaller space, like a small apartment or just the bedroom, like I think it would have seemed less awkward because they weren't walking around and carrying each other as much. And three, once again, they used a lot of long takes and full shots, wide shots, is that what you call it? Instead of, zooming into them, closing up on the body or their faces. So you're seeing more movement than the actual kissing and stuff. And I feel like when you're closer, it feels more passionate. It feels more intimate. But when you're zoomed out, like you just see a lot of movement in this huge set. So I really think the editing made this worse than what it could have been. But once again, I can justify the awkwardness by saying that they're not very experienced. Also, I can justify all of their editing choices by reminding you that this is SBS, guys. This is a public channel. They cannot be as daring as they want to be. They didn't get a 19 plus rating for this the way they got it in Now We Are Breaking Up, which, by the way, was not even, like, the first episode, which got a 19 plus rating, wasn't even that steamy. Or, this isn't JTBC with Nevertheless, okay? But yeah, I think the editing could have made those scenes a lot better, although I still enjoyed them. Thank you very much. So, now I want to talk about some aspects that I've seen a lot of people have conflicting opinions on. First, let's talk about the ending. Okay, a lot happened in episode 12. It was honestly a little choppy, a little rushed, but I see what the show was trying to do. They were trying to wrap up all loose ends, give characters closure, and a little view into their future, and also affirm, like, how will this happy ending work out? Like, aside from the fact that they love each other, okay, blah, blah, there has to be a little more to it that will make us 100% sure that they're going to be okay. Now, I understand those who criticize the finale because they kind of dragged out the conflict with Hari and Temu's grandfather. Like, she's trying to woo him, but he keeps on resisting her charm. And although that would have been a great sequence in episode 10 or 11, this is episode 12, this is the finale, we want to see more things, but they spent a lot of time on that. What else? They spent a lot of time with the side characters, with their stories. We knew more about the food research team, Hari's work co-workers, and what happened to them after a time skip. Yes, there was a time skip, as they usually do. And then also, they separated Hari and Temu almost unnecessarily. A lot of people were like, God, really? The one trope that we could have lived without was just a time skip and a forced separation. Not a breakup, just a long-distance relationship, separation. Okay, to defend this choice, though, it's not out of character that they would separate in a situation like this, because we all know that Hari loves her job and Temu loves his grandfather, and they cannot put each other first all of the time, but they love each other, they stayed strong, they didn't break up, and they were able to prioritize things that really mattered to them as well. You could say like, then maybe don't add the conflict at all. Like, don't add that particular conflict that would require them to separate. But K-dramas can be happy, fun all the time. I really didn't mind the little conflict. And what this conflict brought really to their relationship, to the depth and strength of the relationship, is that they got the approval of each other's families, although Grandpa still will not admit it. They got through the gossip and the rumors, right? They can't just get married while people were still gossiping about them, They needed time for that to die down because they're not planning on breaking up, but they also don't really want to make their lives more miserable by adding fuel to the rumors. What else? They survived a long-distance relationship. They're good. They're so good. They're settled, super settled at this point. I would have hated it if they jumped into marriage after a month of dating each other. So the time skip just proved that they're strong. They can make it work. This is a serious, stable relationship now. And it was an anticlimactic marriage proposal because that's what the director, the writer, and the actors wanted it to seem like. They wanted it to be just a normal day, nothing out of the ordinary. Just a pretty nonchalant proposal. Like, it's a definite yes at this point. Because that's how stable the relationship is. That's how much of a given it is. That's what they wanted to convey. And to some of the viewers, maybe they wanted like a bunch of roses and setting up a fireworks show for her or something ridiculous, or just even getting down on his knee. Like, they didn't even do that because, once again, that's too dramatic for what they are at this point. And I liked it. I liked how simple and sweet that ending was. Sometimes people just complain because they didn't get what they want or because they had expectations. Either just general expectations or from the webtoon, which, by the way, the show has long since diverged from the webtoon story. So many things that they ended up not using from that show. And they didn't reach the post-wedding part of the webtoon because this is a business proposal, right? It's not a business marriage, not a business wedding. So yeah, people just complained because they didn't get what they want. But the writers, the cast and crew, they didn't do the show just to give people everything they want. They have their own story to tell. They have themes that they want to stick to. They have things that they want to achieve in a certain way. So they wanted to make a light and predictable rom-com while still making the journey fun, and they achieved that. To me, they even went above and beyond that by writing such lovely characters that are not like super duper fleshed out, but are just very real and very lovely people. And they made our main couple so steadfast, so perfect for each other, and still delivered good emotional beats. I mean, yeah, were the last 2 episodes less entertaining and heavier than the rest of the show? Yeah. But like, they need a little conflict to keep going, right? It's not as contrived as it could have been, and they really didn't linger on any plot points that they didn't need to. Another thing that people, kind of have conflicting opinions on is the length of the show. A lot of people are saying, God, the show is so good. Why does it only have 12 episodes? Around halfway through the show. But guys, it's good because it only has 12 episodes, right? They didn't drag out a lot of the plot points. The story kept moving. They didn't need to fill any spare time with random plot lines and characters and then add unnecessary conflict like chaebol relatives trying to ruin them or trying to ruin Temu, or a love triangle. My God, imagine if we got a love triangle, or just any other tropes that would have made this less light and breezy. Like, yeah, they had some heavier tropes and some conflict, but really it could have been so much worse. Although a con to this is that towards the end, they really crammed a lot of tropes and deleted many scenes that could have made the finale flow better. I think they would have benefited from 15 more minutes in the last episode. I mean, SBS, come on. Couldn't you have given them 15 more minutes after seeing those ratings? Like Sejong said, they had enough deleted scenes for 16 episodes, which I think she's exaggerating. But 15 minutes, SBS, you couldn't have given them that. Overall, though, I still think 12 episodes is just right for a show that wasn't trying to do much and didn't need 4 more hours to drag out a very simple story. They had enough time to deliver a story that was short and sweet and simple and was just a total delight to watch. yeah, that's it for me today. Business Proposal is, once again, my top K-drama of the year. And it's proof that rom-coms aren't dead. But they just don't work with the current trends of the K-drama industry, right? 16 episodes, and then everything has to be different and new and meaningful. Like, rom-coms thrive off familiarity. And it's going to be hard for the next rom-coms to do that now, because Business Proposal has done it recently and a lot of people will compare it to what Business Proposal has done. But yay to the show for setting the new standard, I hope, of rom-coms for the coming years. Yeah, that's it for me today. I feel like I have more to say. Like, I love the show so much. I have notes on every single episode. I could go on, but let's not do that, okay? I'm very, very happy to have talked about the show and to have found a rom-com that really resonated with me. I truly love the show and I hope people give it a chance if you haven't. And once again, if you don't like it, if you're just going to critique it and say this is nothing special, this and that has done it better, blah, 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 this is so cliche, dude, just drop it, okay? Just don't diss on a show that's not trying to do much, but gives so much to the people who ended up appreciating it. I refuse to accept any Business Proposal criticism, okay? It's not trying to be that good, but it ended up being good, okay? What can we do? That's it for me today. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you soon. Thanks for tuning in. Feel free to leave a comment, like, subscribe, follow, and tell me what you thought about today's episode. See you soon!